You're listening to a podcast from leagueculture.com.
This is episode 35 of League Culture, and we're straight into it this week. You can catch the show on Leaguecast, which is a Google Play app, which is available for free to download with lots of other podcasts as well. The show's going to start with a 35-minute interview with Robert Burgin, where we'll be talking to him about the cancellation of the 2017 Emerging Nations World Cup. I know it's come out today that there will be an Emerging Nations World Cup in 2018, so obviously the interview is pre-recorded to that announcement. Then we're going to end the show by talking to Monte Gaddis about his adventures to become a rugby league player after moving here from the USA. And we're going to wrap the show up with Declan Foy, who has recently been over to the Budapest International Eurotag tournament. Right, this is Stuart Morris and I'm speaking to Robert Burgin. Robert's been in the news a lot recently. He's made some comments regarding the Emerging Nations Cup that was scheduled to take place this year, which we now believe has been moved to 2018. So what we're going to do is just get Robert's side of the story, really, and try and find out what was planned for this year and what Robert feels about it. So hello, Robert.
Hi, how are you, Stu? Thanks for having me.
This year, the Emerging Nations Cup was scheduled to take place. Can you tell us a little bit about the competition?
Yeah, so it was to be named the Emerging Nations World Championship, just so there was no confusion with the World Cup, and that's how it was progressing as. Some people might know the Emerging Nations from previous incarnations. It's been run twice before in conjunction with the World Cup, and generally involves teams from the lower tiers of rugby league that aren't quite there, ready to go for the World Cup qualification just yet. So essentially we had 14 teams that had committed to the Emerging Nations World Championship in November, and that the door was left open for further teams to come on board. So it wasn't finalised at 14, and there were, say, more than 20 teams directly involved in discussions about participating.
Now, obviously that event got cancelled. Now, leading up to that event, it was a little bit strange because it was all very quiet leading up to the event. There wasn't really much said about it.
Yeah, that was purposeful. I guess any time you're involved in planning a major event, you want the conversations to be, I guess, private and well thought out, so that when we did reveal something, that it was going to be pretty close to the final product, and that we'd be in a strong position to do the game justice with what was planned. It was only secretive for that fact that we had to finalise what teams were involved at that stage. We'd waited, I think, sort of up until the last minute we could to accept the bond and the word from a few teams that they were going to participate, and then as soon as that was locked in, we went forward with the first 14 teams, and as I say, we were leaving it open for more teams to be involved as well.
Well, I was certainly talking to nations about them taking part in the competition, and I found it a little bit strange because obviously they were aware that the event was going to take place. They'd had things booked. They were going to take part. Yet nothing ever actually came out in terms of official releases and stuff. So leading up to it, it was all a little bit surprising, shall we say? And then there was this announcement that the event had been cancelled. Now, this is something that obviously upset you a lot.
To just give an overall picture of where I sat on this, I was in discussions as secretary and co-founder of Latin American Rugby League, and also I was on the smaller Emerging Nations World Championship working committee. So there was a group of about 5 of us that were tasked with helping to make it happen, and we were working on a close to daily basis to do the things behind the background to have it in place. I guess the reason that why I felt particular anger at this is, we progressed with this idea for 4 months or so before being told 24 hours before we had planned that media announcement you just spoke about before. We did 24 hours of that happening. We were called up and said, look, you can't have this happen anymore. And, until that point, as a person that was on the planning committee, I was working on my days off for free for them, working deep into the night on this. I'd come up with the logo to help them out in conjunction with my colleague at Latin American Rugby League, Daniel Godinez. Written several drafts of documents that they needed, and basically told that all that work we put in was for nothing, and for me on grounds that weren't really substantiated. I think now that there's a proposal for there to be a 2018 tournament, everyone is taking the view that, let's make the best of a bad situation. I'm not necessarily convinced it had to be a bad situation to start with. Everything was in place as close as it could be, and people had committed to spending the money to come over. Now the Rugby League International Federation has said, different numbers between $100,000 and $150,000 will be invested into an Emerging Nations World Championship next year, and there'll be a tournament director appointed as well, which is great going forward, and would have been great if all the participating teams knew that before they'd committed to 2017. It's certainly going to be a great outcome for the game at the end of 2018, but I think we've missed the boat in terms of some of the countries that are going to be left hanging on the vine for the next 12 months without necessarily much incentive, and some of the diplomatic and sponsor and just volunteer relationships that have been burnt by letting this situation progress and hanging the promise out there without firm direction. And my understanding is that the teams that are going to participate in 2018 World Cup, World Championship for Emerging Nations, have been told that they have to go away and form the business plan for it to happen, which for me is just craziness, and why I've stepped back from being involved in any planning with Emerging Nations. If you think, there's a major world body responsible for organising a tournament, and they've gone away and asked the teams to come up with the strategy and the budget for it, is just, to me, like a bizarre approach, and probably, part of the reason why the first one got delayed, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, what was the reason given for moving it? I mean, I'm led to believe it was a conflict to do with rights concerning the World Cup. Yeah,
I think the thing that the argument that it fell back on first and foremost was that it was going to somehow dilute the branding of the top tier RLAF World Cup, and the sticking point in discussions was it continually came back to the Rugby League World Cup says it has exclusivity rights to host Rugby League tournament at that time of the year. I guess similar to what you've probably heard in the past they do with things like the Olympic Games and with the FIFA World Cup. But I think there's several pretty big holes in that argument, and I just think that the fact that we were told that is probably a little bit of disservice.
Well, I would say there's a few things wrong with that. One is it didn't creep up on people, this Emerging Nations. It was been planned for a long, long time.
Yeah, I think that the holes that I see in the argument about there being an exclusivity clause is that all the Emerging Nations that play, especially in the Southern Hemisphere, usually October is the most active time of year. So if there was an exclusivity clause beforehand, regardless of an Emerging Nations World Championship, we would have been or should have been told that months and months in advance, because if there was an Emerging Nations, we would have held individual test games. So for that to come out close to February of this year seems bizarre to start with. Second to that is surely that if the World Cup wanted to take advantage of these 14 emerging nations who had already proposed to self-fund and come to the tournament, surely they could have discussed with their partnering bodies some way to waive that exclusivity clause. Again, how can there be an exclusivity clause if there's a Women's World Cup being held, if there's a Student World Cup being held, if there's, I believe there's a Military World Cup being held in conjunction as well. There's, at that time of year in October around Australia, there's commonly Indigenous tournaments that run that late into the year. So, yeah, I just think it's very strange that was used as a reason to close it down.
I think the fact you was told so late in the day as well is not the best way, perhaps, to deliver news like that. I mean, they have plenty of opportunity to tell you the tournament was cancelled. They didn't have to wait 24 hours before the announcement was to be made.
The other thing is, if you look back through the minutes, and I guess I'm at the point now where it's been that long. It was January 22 since we were told it's not going to happen, so I don't want to be crying over spilt milk continually, and I think, we have to go forward at some point. But the whole process was wrong, and there needs to be, a shot fired across the bow in some ways. That there's just massive unrest, I guess, at the way that some of the emerging nations are treated. And I'm not just saying that as part of Latin American Rugby League, but I've probably close to, since I've written a story about a Rugby League International Federation and the inability of this to come to fruition, I've probably had 20 different officials from various organisations contact me, and the ratio of them being happy to being very upset with what's going on an international phase is probably 18. I mean, probably 2 to 18, and in favour of people being very upset about it. And that's not just teams at the emerging nations level. I've had officials from the top tiers as well that are not pleased with the direction that's going. And I don't want to see a rift happen. There's been, discussion, I guess that was started by me, about there being some sort of breakaway federation. But from my perspective, that's more a warning of where we're at the moment, rather than something I'd like to see happen. Obviously I've lived through Super League and saw how detrimental, I'm talking about Australian Super League here, and saw how detrimental that was to the game over here, having the game divided. It's not something I would like to see at all happen on an international stage. But regardless of my view or not, it may come to that position unless things improve. 2018 World Championships comes to fruition itself. Otherwise, I have sort of grave feelings about where this is headed.
No, and I think they're justified as well. I mean, I think perhaps you and myself are as two of the people who do speak to a lot of people in the international game, and there's certainly a feeling that people are being used at the moment, certainly by officials in the game, because, well, we both know you put a lot of your own personal money into the game, and at times people are just plain disrespectful.
Yeah, and that was the feedback even from the teams when they were told that the tournament was no longer on. A lot of them are not saying so publicly because, for various reasons they've got relationships to maintain at that top level. But even in the discussions when we were told this was off as a group, people found the manner that was delivered to be very disrespectful, and to be that they were being talked down to in a way, which it's just a sad situation that the people that are doing the work are being told what to do, which, it happens in every workplace, but there's only so long that can happen in a place where no one is getting paid money. And, I'm not saying we want to be paid money. We want the game to have some level of investment for the emerging nations for it to go forward.
Just very quickly, I'm going to put a bit of criticism your way that I've heard. I mean,
sure.
Some of the things that people have said about this tournament were, why didn't you just hold the tournament without the blessing of the RLAF? Why didn't you just run it independently?
Well, essentially we were. We were told at the start that the RLAF would support what we did, but they wouldn't have any input into it. So they were involved in discussions, although to me I think the communications between members of that organisation broke down, and that had a lot to do with why the competition stopped. But they did give, basically their backing. If we went away now and continued to have a 2017 World Championship, which, a month ago was probably a big possibility that would happen anyway, but we would essentially be forming that breakaway federation that you talk about, because they wouldn't give us our blessing. We'd be doing it without their blessing and going against this, supposed exclusivity cause. So it would signal a rebellion in the game. And would that be any good for the sport? Well, I guess it's 6 of one, half a dozen the other. It'd be good in the sense people standing on their own 2 feet, but in the year of a World Cup, it would present a divided game. So yeah, I mean, there's entirely every possibility that could still happen, but I don't think people want to present the game as being divided.
The second point I'm going to put to you is, a lot of people said this tournament didn't have any value. It was just Australians putting on shirts for different nations, and in many cases the players playing had no connection to the countries that they were representing. What would you say in defence of that?
Yeah, I think anyone that spends a lot of time around emerging nations, developing nations rugby league would find that pretty insulting, but pretty stock standard for critics of the way that international game is held, and particularly involvement of heritage players. Sitting around the table for discussions leading into the Emerging Nations World Championship, it was clear that all the countries had a disposition and mindset to involve people that, weren't Australian based, that were from the domestic competitions. But in most situations, yes, there would have to be Australian based players with the bona fide heritage of these countries. And, if you look at that from an objective point of view, where are most of the leading coaches, where are most of the leading facilities in the game? If the game and the tournament is to be held in Australia, where would it make financial sense to bring a lot of the players from? If this competition was held in England, I have no doubt that there'd be a much bigger percentage of English-based heritage players being held there. If it was held in America, the same thing. It all comes down to money and reality in the long run. And I think there's a lot of people in this game that are ideologically entrenched in these very fundamentalist ways of looking at how we have to grow the game. And if they think if they think that we're going to be able to do it without Australian-based heritage players, then you're just playing a game of bob for the apples with your hands tied behind your back, because that's a huge asset that you have, to have this cultural melting pot in Australia where you can influence all these countries outside. So say with an example of somewhere like Lebanon, who will be in the top World Cup this year, they started out basically with mostly Australian heritage players, but through their influence, through their cousins, through their contacts that they have online, they were able to spread the game to another country. And that's what we're seeing many times over at other levels. So, how you could bring people together from all across the world, from every 6 continents were due to be emerging nations. If you could bring them all together, show them how the game operates, give them a bit of coaching close to the elite tier, and be a part of the pageantry of a World Cup, was a massive opportunity, I think, and I don't think it will be detrimental to the game.
Right, this is the third and final criticism that I'm going to put towards you. They're not my criticisms. These are what I've been asked to ask you on what
That's
I've read.
fine. I'm very comfortable in the ability to defend this, because it all came from the right place. We all wanted to do this for the good of the game.
Right, this criticism is part of the reason that competition didn't have any value was the countries taking part weren't real countries. They weren't representative of a nation. We've got things like Latin America, we've got Scandinavia. They're not sovereign nations in their own right.
Yeah, that's correct. So there were 4 teams that were confirmed that weren't sovereign nations, and then a further one that was pretty close and would have been involved in discussion. So if you look at the regional teams, so there's Latin Heat, there's Africa United, there's Scandinavia, Mediterranean, Middle East, and there's ASEAN, which is the Southeast Asian nations. So between those countries, you have between those 5 formations, you have about 100 different countries that would have been present there. So the idea was within that Emerging Nations World Championship that those 5 regional teams would have their own pool where they didn't mix with the sovereign nations. They wouldn't steal any ranking points, and they would be in their own promotional pool, in a sense, where they would play games against each other and not contest the final, but they would still give exposure to the game in those regions, because frankly, you can put Chile or you can put Burundi or Sudan in that competition and they would get absolutely smashed, and there would be huge concerns about player safety and what good that would do to promote the code. But instead, having a team like Latin Heat, where it's a composite of 24 teams, all at once you're promoting that Argentinians can compete in this competition, Chileans can, Guyanans can, Mexicans can, Nicaraguans can. So with one team, you're forming a promotional avenue and a gateway for multiple countries at once. So yeah, that viewpoint of there not being sovereign nations is taken on board. And for me, as a supporter of the game, I would want to see a sovereign nation emerge with the trophy if that was the case. But at the same time, if there was an opportunity for us to promote the game in 100 different countries at the same time and utilise those teams' contacts within their local media, then I think it would be a missed opportunity if we didn't allow some involvement at all.
Right. Okay, well, thank you very much for answering those questions.
My thought is this, Stuart, people can paint me the way that they want as a troublemaker for bringing this to the fore, but I think perhaps trying to be the canary down the mine, mates, because if no one squawks about this early, it really will come to a point where there is a breakaway situation. If you can imagine all these countries that have lived over the years with zero investment, and suddenly if someone else came along and said, we can better organise this for you, I'm a private investor or I'm a corporation and I've got $1 million that I want to invest over 20 different emerging nations. That's far better situation than we have at the moment on an international stage, and I wonder how many teams would resist that with the current level of support that's offered. That's my viewpoint first and foremost. So for all the people out there that have tried to paint me as a sole person of unrest that's trying to cause the game damage, that's really where the point that I'm coming from. I don't want to hurt the game at all, but I would like to point out that this could all fall on its head if we don't do something drastically to alter the way that we treat these people at the forefront of developing and expanding the game.
No, having known you and known the work that you're involved with, you're a genuine guy, and I guess like myself, you just want to speak honestly about things. And yes, it's easy to remain quiet, but unfortunately, there's a lot, particularly in the rugby league press, that there's not a lot of people challenging the structure of the game at the moment. So I kind of feel a little bit sorry for you that you've had to do this.
Oh, I've tried to take on, some of the expressions that have been passed on to me from other teams as well, because they don't necessarily get to have a platform like myself working in the media. And that was actually a sentiment that was pushed on me by someone at the top levels in the top 14 countries who said to me, Robert, you probably have a bit of a duty to go out there and tell the true story about this, because nothing's going to improve if we keep it a closed shop. So, within myself, I'm the kind of person that my mum always told me when I was younger, if you believe in something, you've got to stand up for it. And that's what I'm doing. I might have annoyed a lot of people within the game that I was previously friends with, but I'm just simply trying to do what's right for the game in the long run. And for all those other people that, don't have a voice to express their disappointment with what's going on.
Yeah, there's certainly, if we take the game from a wider point of view at the moment, certainly a lot of the work being done internationally by the RLAF it's missing. We've got the issue with supports accord. We've got the fact that we're still lacking a serious international side to the game at the moment. So I think there's a right to be concerned about the direction the game's going in.
Yeah, and I honestly think, the International Federation, it's very poorly funded, so it's not all their fault. Like the guys who are working on the ground, or the sole development officer in the Southern Hemisphere, Taz Batiri, probably, works 80 hours every week, is tireless in this. And I know he's not a fan of the comments I've made because, he's employed by the company that I've criticised, but I personally don't hold someone like him to be at account for this because it's so poorly resourced that he's absolutely run off his feet. I actually spoke to someone last week and they want to be involved in helping to spread the rules of the game around the world and setting up an app that helps encourage people to play the game and shows them the governance, etc., coaching mechanisms. And they said, how many international development officers are out there? And when I told him, I could pretty much hear his jaw drop to the floor. He had no idea that the game of rugby league had such a small base to expand with. And so I actually don't hold the International Federation solely responsible. I think an organisation like the NRL, where such money flows through it, has some sort of responsibility when it looks at investments around it to consider what is happening with the overall health of the game. Now, a lot of people say that NRL is responsible for Australia and New Zealand only in its own competition because it's it's a company within itself, which is correct, but it's the same way as saying my neighbour's house is being engulfed by fire. I'm just going to leave it alone because it's none of my business.
Yeah.
At some stage, what's happening next door to you and all around you is going to affect you. And I commonly think back to when I was travelling. A lot of the countries I visited had very small connection to the Premier League in England, but the number of jerseys you would see out there was huge. And that's because they care about their international image, and they actually go out there and cultivate it. All through Southeast Asia, you go to places and there'll be, Chelsea and Liverpool and Manchester United jerseys being worn all up and down the street. And how many guys from, Thailand or Cambodia or Vietnam are playing in that competition? Very little, but they know how lucrative it is to be in all these markets. And if not necessarily for the money of people buying all this, paraphernalia to do with the game, from the wider support and then the business people that see this level of influence. And that's what rugby league is missing, is that bigger picture of how spreading the game internationally could be beneficial to the domestic competitions as much as it would be a drain. And when I talk drain, I just think, something like $2,000 a year for most of these countries can be the difference between them having jerseys and not having jerseys. And that's as simple as it is for a lot of these countries. They just need that level of support for things to happen. We constantly see money go elsewhere to investments that I don't think are the wisest, or, on expenses for different events where it's not necessary.
No, and I think there's a wider point as well. Perhaps outside of Sydney, I think the real issue for the game is the world's shrinking, and if rugby league's not careful, it's going to get squeezed out by other sports, because with sport, having an international game is almost everything these days. Yeah,
and along the discussions towards Emerging Nations World Championship, actually a fairly senior person within the game said in an open conversation that rugby league would never be on a stage with rugby union, that it would never spread to more than the countries that it has at present, and that it was locked by, sort of the fluctuations of history, that it's locked in a stage that it will never grow, which to me was entirely depressing, but, probably a little bit of an insight into how people think, which is it's bizarre, because I think the whole argument about you not being able to grow a sport in a non-traditional environment is a flawed one. You can look at several sports over the years that have grown massively in foreign markets, and for me the big example is UFC. How UFC has taken off across the globe with a brutal sport that's, perhaps very similar to rugby league in some ways, and yet they've been able to open that up to multiple markets and to promote it in a way that's very attractive, comprehensive, and still they retain a strong sense of individuality and of what they stand for. I think there's a lot to be learned from that example, even if you look, say, at the extreme sports that are backed by Red Bull. They do an amazing job of promoting that. And for me, as someone who has very little interest in some of the sports Red Bull promotes, I still see them everywhere. They come up on my newsfeed and I'll find myself watching their videos because they do it very, very well. And I think rugby league, with the product it has every opportunity to do that if there's the sense of belief that it can be done, and if we have the right people in the positions to do that.
Well, I mean, we both travel a bit. We both go to different countries, and I'm always, surprised by the reaction people have to rugby league. It's amazing how fast people fall in love with rugby league once they see it. It's not a difficult sport to get people to want to be involved with. So, in terms of the products, I think the products is amazing. I think the issue is this. I think we have a lot of people who are scared that if the sport grows, the sport will outgrow them.
Yeah, I think there's probably 2 points there. You're very right on that first one, and that's perhaps the major one, is that people that have been involved in developing the game for decades don't necessarily think it can accelerate in a very small period of time. And it's only natural, I guess, as a human being to think perhaps that you've failed or something, that if your level of involvement in the game hasn't brought the amount of growth that you thought possible or that is achievable in a modern age, then you might reflect on your time as as perhaps being wasted, but I don't think that's the case at all. It's simply a matter of technology evolving over time. We're all, as you say, we're more interconnected than we've ever been before. We can't compare what development officers in the modern age could do with people in previous times, and so I guess there is that level of people don't want the game to outgrow them, and sadly, I think on a very small way this is true, that we don't want to see it outgrow the cultures that it's embedded in at the moment either. I think perhaps there is a very small threat in the back of people's minds that if this sport becomes successful in America, if it becomes successful in Africa, that they have the type of athletes, and if it becomes successful in Eastern Europe and the Scandinavian, Russia, all these countries have a very strong genetic disposition to succeeding in a contact sport like rugby league. And perhaps that the people that have been involved in the anglicised history of the game won't have that same level of influence that's been there before. I think that's probably a discussion that needs to be had. It's a very hard one to have. But to be honest, I think there is a threat that they'll think there's not going to be so many Australians in this competition anymore. There's not going to be that many English people at the top level. And we're probably talking about a culture shift that the NBA went through, 2 decades or 3 decades back, that we have to consider if there's some people in the upper tiers of the game who don't necessarily want to see that happen.
No, I think that's a good point made. I've had your time for quite a while now. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap this up?
No, that's fine, Stuart. Thanks for listening and supporting what everyone's trying to do with the international game.
Well, no, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. I'll get you back on again sometime to talk about Latin Heat, because the work that you've done with Latin Heat in the last few years, just in the short space of time I spoke to you, whatever it was, 3 years ago, it's been amazing. It's been absolutely amazing what you've done, and the game needs more people like you involved.
Stu, we might have a little bit of a scoop for you. So within the absence of the Emerging Nations World Championship, and it's not anything I've discussed with any other media, but we're looking at a significant investment in having a Latin American Championships take place in November in Chile, which will involve up to, perhaps 8 teams from across Latin America, but at least 4 different countries. So that'll be something that's never happened before for the sport.
Well, that'd be incredibly exciting. That'd be something that's. I think that would probably be possibly the tournament of the year. That might even be more exciting than the actual World Cup.
Hopefully the World Cup's better than that, mate.
I don't know, because with these tournaments, we don't know who could win it. We don't know what.
Sure.
They don't seem to take in part, and sometimes with international sport, it does get a little bit predictable. So, a sort of a Federations Cup, if you like, in Latin America, for me, as an internationalist, I find that incredibly exciting.
Yeah, it's something that we've wanted to do for a long time. So hopefully it all comes to fruition.
Well, good luck with that, and thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Stu. Cheers, man.
Hustling and I'm grinding and hustling and I'm grinding and.
So it's time to wake, hustle and grind. How are you, Monte?
I'm doing great. How about yourself today?
I'm fine. So we've heard lots of things have been going on in your world, possible TV appearances and lots of other things. So.
Well, first of all, since we last met, I've been going to a couple of Super League matches. Actually, I've been to the Leeds Rhinos versus the Wakefield Trinity match. I've also went to the Leeds Rhinos versus Huddersfield at Huddersfield. And today, man, I had a great time at the Castleford versus Catalan Dragons today. As you know, Castleford won that game, and it's just been so great on the different atmospheres and just seeing how the fans react to everything. I've been seeing smaller, even young kids singing the songs and everything. It's just been amazing.
How does that compare to the States and your US football experiences? Is it a completely different thing? What do you take back from that?
I could tell you one thing. In the States, as you know, the stadiums are massive. They are a whole maybe 70 to 90,000. The Super League stadiums are smaller, but the fans, you're actually closer to the field than you are in American football. Like, you can give the player a high five if you wanted to. It's like so close, and you can actually hear everything that's going on instead of watching it on TV and hearing the sound effects on TV. It's like you're watching it like on TV and hearing everything since you're so close to the field. It's just crazy. I love it. I loved it.
Yeah, it's certainly. I mean, that's certainly one of the things with some of the more traditional grounds in the country. I mean, you're pretty much as a spectator, you're pretty much face to face with the players at times. It's a very intimidating experience, I can imagine, for players.
Yes, it was. I'm just happy. You know, the crazy part about the whole situation, the two matches I've been to, well, I actually been to three, but two matches I've been to with Chris Heath and Gavin Pritchard. These are guys I've met through social media from playing at the trial game at Brig House, and you know, our first time meeting in person was them coming to pick me up and taking me to both matches. Like, it's just crazy. The rugby league world is so friendly and family oriented. It's like, who would have thought that I'd have been going to Super League matches over here with complete strangers, and we are having great times at that.
Well, yeah, that's good to know. I mean, that's a great thing. I mean, I suppose one of the things we complain about in our sport is we can be a little bit isolated and we can be a little bit tribal, but within the sport, we certainly have warmth through each other. It's perhaps not as there's certainly a lot of love that goes around the sport.
Yes.
So have you been doing any work in schools, or what have you been up to?
Oh yes, I've also been doing my guidance footworks, as you know. It's getting bigger. Even tomorrow, I'm going to the rugby Schoolhouse of Excellence. I'm going to there again. I went there last Monday. They booked me again for tomorrow, and I did the Alton Raiders Unders 11. I just put out a teaser video clip, maybe about 30 seconds, just so people can see what I've been doing at Brain and Brawn Fitness here in Leeds. And it's just been getting better and better, you know. Easter holidays, I know that the kids have 2 weeks off of school, so I'm definitely going to have a camp for everyone, American football people, soccer, rugby, volleyball, whatever sports you do, you know, Easter holidays, you can come train with Monte Gaddis, and that's at T3 Wellbeing. I have a flyer going around, so you will definitely see it posted in different places, but, you know, the coaches and the parents are loving it because, you know, the drills, they haven't seen drills like this before. I'm bringing my American football drills and my American football footwork to the rugby league world. And, you know, we've been doing this since I was maybe 10 years old, 11 years old. And I just want to bring this just a new generation of kids bringing footwork into the game, just adding a different thing to the game, you know.
Well, yeah, I think that's a great thing. I think perhaps sometimes when we watch Super League all the time and the defences are strong and we don't see the space, we forget about footwork, and footwork is an important part of rugby league.
Yes, it truly is, and I will tell you that from just playing that. And you know, the one thing that helps me out is my footwork. You know, I started off here at wing, then I went to second row, and now I'm at prop. And it's not because of my speed or my strength, it's actually because of my footwork and my tackling also. But the footwork has helped me play the 3 different positions like that.
So which one have you enjoyed playing at the most?
Oh, that's a great question. Like, they all have their intangibles. Like, I love every part of each one. I'm definitely going to say second row since it's in between the winger and the prop. I'll say second row because I still get space and opportunity to run the ball and tackle. You know, prop is for the big guys. It's a lot of banging in there, but you don't get the opportunity for one-on-one like you do at the wing. At the wing, you don't get as many tackles as you are at the prop. So I would say second row.
Yeah, I mean, I think second rows are great. I mean, you've got to have the strength to play second row, but you've got that, and it's great. I guess playing on the wing at times, it can get a bit lonely sometimes out there on the wing.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I catch myself talking to the fans when I'm playing that wing.
Well, don't let the coach hear you say that. No.
Make sure he doesn't listen to this one.
Very honest answer, though. Right. So you're not alone anyway. You brought a few more Americans and Canadians over with you in the last few weeks.
Yes. We have Corey Knox. He just came over, I believe, a couple days ago with Queensberry. And we have also Nathan Campbell. You know, he was one of the trialers also with Toronto Wolfpack, but now he's playing with me on Shawcross Sharks. We have Casey Clark and Joe, and also Chad. And they're all on Underbank Rangers right now. So we have a couple of the trialers guys over here.
Well, that's really good. I mean, that makes the NCL quite interesting to watch. I guess people should keep their eye out for these NCL games because we've got a few stars in their play now in that NCL.
Yes, exactly. And we're all just starving for opportunity. You know, we just keep striving to get better, and making sure that we've been seen. You know, it's all about just like you said, wake, hustle, and grind. That's all it is. Well,
you got a shout out on Premier Sports the other day. I think it was Danny Lockwood mentioned you'd had chance to nip down to Dewsbury and see the setup there. So you're making a name for yourself.
Yes, because actually one of my teammates told me about that, and I wasn't even familiar. I didn't even know that. So that's when I just looked it up, and then you had sent me over the video, and I was like, wow, like even though they say it's Canadian, I'm American. Everybody out there, I'm American. But you know, it's just great to see that people around the rugby league world like really know my name, and they see me, you know, trying to just get better and just trying to get on the team, and just find a place for them.
Well, you certainly are making a name for yourself, and are the T-shirt sales going well? Are the jersey sales going well?
Yes, everything's going well. Like the jersey sales, especially back home, you know, once one person buys it, it's like a copycat thing. You know, someone else wants it, then someone else wants it, and I'm loving the support. You know, since they can't see me play, they can't touch me or just talk to me every day. You know, buying my jerseys is very supportive. I'm loving it. Well,
those jerseys are great. I mean, it's like the US flag woven into the design of the Shawcross Sharks shirt, and it's got your wake, hustle, and grind on there. And yes. I think they're a great shirt, and are they still available to buy?
Yes, they are still available to buy. If you just contact me, and if you send me your email, I'll send you the email with the steps for you to pay for it through PayPal, which is through my coach Brett Turner, and we'll that I'll ship to you or hand deliver if you're close.
And will you be taking these shirts with you on your travels? Because you're going away, aren't you? You're going to Rotterdam.
Oh yes, I am going to Rotterdam for the Nines tournament, which is another great opportunity. And I won't be taking them, but I'll definitely be taking orders out there in the Netherlands if there are anyone that's interested.
Do you know the teams? Do you know much about the Rotterdam Nines that you're going to? Do you know the teams that are taking place?
I'll be playing with the Amsterdam Cobras. You know, the head coach. He contacted me through social media, which has been a big part of my success right now. He contacted me, and he said that he will set me up with accommodation. He also got my flight, you know, my flight there and my return flight. So it's just been great. And I know that there's a team, a professional team from France. I think there's a team from London. I think the Warriors, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. There's also 3 total teams from the Netherlands and also a team from Germany. So there's 6 teams in total, I believe.
No, there's more than that. Should I just go through for you so you know when you get there? You've got the Rotterdam Pitbulls.
Oh yes.
The West Warriors.
Yes.
That's the London team. Now they had quite a good run in the Challenge Cup quite a few weeks ago. We've got Swansea University in there. They're playing the Krupke Dragons. Do you know where they're from?
Oh, the Dragons is that Netherlands also?
No, they're from the Czech Republic.
Oh, okay, Czech Republic. Maybe I didn't catch that one.
Yeah, we've got the Amsterdam Cobras, who I hope you know because you're playing for them. And
yes.
your first game is going to be against Nanterre. Now, Nanterre are quite a historically famous club in France. So I think they were a Paris-based club a few decades back. So you can perhaps tell us all about them when you return from your travels. And the last 2 games in that, as you've already said, we've got the Hardwick Dolphins, they're a Dutch team, and we've got TSV Karlshofen, they're the German side.
Oh, okay, that's the German team. Okay, got you.
And I think at this point we'll give our our support out there to Simon Cooper. I don't know if you're familiar with Simon Cooper. Simon Cooper's been involved with the German Rugby League, but at the moment he's undergoing cancer treatment. So we wish him all the best, obviously, while he recovers from that illness.
Oh yes, we definitely give him fast recovery. So,
what next for you now? With after this Rotterdam Nines?
What's next for me then? I believe my final game here will be April 22nd against the Hull Dockers. And that'll be my last match, and then I'll be headed back to the States. I'm in the decision deciding whether will I stay with the USRL team, the Philadelphia Fight, would I play for them, or would I stay in my hometown and just play sevens? For my team, it's not the rugby thing that's I'm balancing between financially and just a family situation. So I have to take care of some things back home, and then I have to just see what's going to be my next plan with that. But I know for sure I'll be playing rugby.
Well, all the best to you. I mean, obviously, like many a player, you do have to balance the personal aspects of your life with the professional aspects, and there's obviously difficult decisions for you to make.
Yes.
And what are your thoughts so far on the Wolfpack? Have you been following the Wolfpack?
Oh, yes, I have. And hey, like everyone's been saying, run with the pack. Hashtag run with the pack. These guys are balling. They're going through every game with a head full of steam. And, it's just good to see these guys still winning without, fully, of course. But, man, congratulations to them on the win. The goal for me is also to still get on with the Toronto Wolfpack each and every practice and game. I'm still showing everyone that I have what it takes, to earn a contract. But it's about me just getting better at the time now. But I've been following the Wolfpack for sure. And I get a call from Adam Fogarty at least twice a week, just mentioning everything. So I definitely stand up to date.
Well, that's good to hear. I mean, it's been interesting to follow. I thought we were going to see somewhat of a walkover season for him, but it's not proved to be the case. I saw him at Keighley today, which was a nice game. It was a nice dry day on a nice sunshiny day on a good pitch with grass to run on, and it was quite an intense game. I mean, I think the quality of the Wolfpack shone out in the end, but it's not going to be perhaps as easy this season as some people thought.
Oh yeah, I could definitely understand that. This is rugby league. No one's going to just run through anything. I believe the biggest problem with the Wolfpack is just maybe gaining chemistry. I'm not saying it's going to be an easy season at all, but once they gain their chemistry, in my opinion, I really don't see anyone stopping them but themselves. Everyone's going to have a different opinion about it, but these are guys that I know their abilities, and I'm all go with them.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting season. You've got a variety of teams and a variety of conditions out there to play against.
Yeah, definitely the conditions. Yes, you're right about that.
We've seen 4G pitches and mud and grass, and it's making for an interesting story anyway.
Yes.
So hopefully all the fans out there in Toronto are following it, and hopefully they're finding it as interesting as we are.
Yeah, I believe so. I hope they are also.
Right. Well, thank you very much, Monte, and good luck to you in the future and whatever you do.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and it's always great talking to you in league culture. I really appreciate you for always reaching out and helping me, expand my brand and just letting people know my story.
Thank you very much.
Okay, it's time to phone Declan Foy and see what he's been up to. Apologies for the loss of quality on the recording here. Right, I've got Declan Foy on the line. Declan, we've not heard from you in a while.
I've been busy, Stuart.
What have you been up to?
Well, most recently, went to Budapest at the weekend for the Eurotag European Championship. It was a great weekend. I wish I was still there.
Well, go on, tell us a bit more. Did you have anyone of note at the event?
Quite a few ex-pros there. We had Paul McDermott and Kevin Harkin, and obviously my father was there because he has to remind me when I go out, and Glenn Waters. And then obviously
linked up with the Hungarians, which themselves actually, I didn't know that they do have a couple of rugby union internationals. On the Friday we went to Margaret Island to have a little bit of a warm-up game. That evening we were in the Octagon, which is owned by Budapest Rugby League. And then on the Saturday we had the event proper, and then back to the Octagon. And then on Sunday, like a few of us on the left, we went into the Turkish baths in Budapest. So all sightseeing and everything.
So that's good. I mean, just to explain, you went over with Ireland, and Oldham St Anne's went over as well, and the Rotterdam, that's a rugby league and rock and roll pub, isn't it, in Budapest?
That's right. You go in and you go like around the front of all rugby league memorabilia, and then out the back is a rock stage. They had a band on the Saturday night, and the crowd seemed pretty into it. On the Friday night, there was a Super League game on out front.
Yes, that sounds like Steve Mascard's favourite holiday destination.
I think he'd be like it was aimed at him.
Definitely. So it's going well. It's going well, the Eurotag.
Like, was it 2 weeks ago, we had the Rochdale and Oldham ex-players were playing. The week before that, we had went to Yorkshire with Eastmore. Paul McDermott organised that. And then, like, Kerry have been going strong all year round, and they're playing Eurotag every Thursday, and I think next week St Anne's start playing Eurotag every Thursday, so it's going on. No, and the other thing is the Hungarians have played, that was their third Eurotag competition this year. It's only happening.
No, it's good. And just to explain, I mean, Eurotag is a semi-contact version of rugby league, isn't it? So it allows more people to play and older people to play.
Yeah. So obviously you just need to touch the ball to affect the tackle. So that leads to a kind of a niche, really. So you've got this between sort of masters and touch and tag. Then you have this Eurotag where there's that sort of semi-contact element, which it's like if you look at some of the videos, there's plenty of videos going up there now from the Budapest Rugby League. It's much more like a game of rugby league. The pacing of it, the speed of the play of the ball, how long it takes to complete a tackle, and then the sort of space in between the defender and the attacker. That sort of space is much more like you would expect in a real game as opposed to, say, touch, where we end up getting them going backwards with some voluntary touches, and tag, where the play of the ball could take a really long time if you have to go back and retrieve your tag. But so it's a good concept, and it's been picked up everywhere. Everywhere it goes, it seems to make a friend.
Well, it's very relevant. I mean, it solves a lot of the problems and the answers a lot of questions at the moment. We've got participation numbers going down. We've had a 33% drop in funding in the UK. It's a magic bullet, really, isn't it, to get people playing rugby league? I think I know this, you know this, but sometimes it's difficult to get this message across.
Yeah, but I suppose the only way of sorting that out is to be practical about it and say to everyone, look, just give it a go. If you really don't like it after you've played it, then maybe it's not for you. I don't know, but I don't really know anybody who's come off the field after a game of Eurotag and said, "Oh no, that's no good for me." There are plenty of people who say they don't like things before they try them, and when they actually try them, it changes their mind.
Well, it's rugby league, isn't it, with basketball level contact?
Yeah, that's about it. Basketball, maybe Gaelic football, that sort of level. So if you can have an age range of 18 to 65 in a competition, and there's no mismatch there, then I think, like you say, it's a bit of a magic bullet. But that's not even the first time this has happened. If you go down to, it's a great way of getting people involved. It's a great way of getting people involved in authentic rugby league as well. A lot of people turn around and go, "Oh yeah, we can get anybody to play a touch, we can get anyone to play a tag." But I would argue argue that Eurotag is closer to the league than anything else. And I think there's people backing that up behind me. If you see that some of the other people who are involved in it, more really got in the back of their hand. This isn't a sort of a commercial venture as much as it is a community of rugby league people getting behind it. So yeah, it's all good.
Well, it's an exciting month we've got ahead of us. I don't know if you're up to speed with events. Have you seen the various nines tournaments that are taking place?
I think the Amsterdam nines, is that this one?
Rotterdam. It's we've got the Rotterdam nines.
Yeah, I saw a poster for that. It looks pretty good. Isn't it, the posters for things are getting better and better. I think that's the rugby league evolution that's happening. Is that online posters are improving significantly.
Oh yeah, I mean
that gets people behind them.
We've got. I mean, on top of that, we've got the Czech nines this month, and we've also got the Hong Kong nines.
Ah.
So it's.
I didn't know about the Hong Kong nines. Who's going to be playing in that?
There's a team from Thailand's taking place, and a team from Papua New Guinea's taking part this year.
Nice.
So it's.
The other thing that I've noticed is that the level of videos and the media coming out of these events is also improving year on year. Like I don't know if you've seen the Budapest Eurotag video. It's just I think it's a 1 minute little promo, and like talking about telling a destination in a minute. Really like they put together something fantastic there. I sort of love to see those things from everywhere.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I mean, we talk about promotion things going on. I mean, we've got the Ukrainian leagues just started up again. We've had in Turkey. I mean, they've got women's rugby league going on. We just had the grand final, which Kadkay Bulls won, and we've got the start of the Balkan Super League about to begin. Have you heard about that?
Only briefly. I understand that there's a couple of countries involved in that. Is that right?
Yeah. We've got Serbia's got Serbia in that. We've got Turkey taking place in that. There's a team from Bosnia taking part in the Balkan Super League as well. We've got Hungary, and I think it's the one of the other champions are scheduled for a playoff to enter that as well. So
very good, all happening, and then it'll all be streamed live, no doubt. I hope so.
Well, the Turkish Grand Final was streamlined. I'd hope the Balkan Super League was streamlined. We'll find out. We'll find out more details, I guess as it goes. Right. So, Declan Foy, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Stu. Pleasure. Always.
Okay, so I've got actually here the details for the Balkan Super League. In Group A, we've got Partizan, who are a Serbian team, I believe. Novi Beograd, who are also Serbian. Vitesse, which are a Bosnian Herzegovinian team. And Budapest will play the champions of Bosnia-Herzegovina for the 4th place spot. In Group B, we have Dorchel and Red Star, obviously Serbian teams. We have Lokomotiv Sofia, which is a Bulgarian team, and the Kadkay Bulls, which is the Turkish Grand Finalist. Right, thank you very much for listening to the show, and enjoy your rugby league, and we'll catch you next time. Remember, we only ask one small favour, and that's, if you can, please share the show so more people get to enjoy the international rugby league experience, and we help spread the gospel of the international game. And hopefully in next week's show we'll have a tribute to David Story, who died in the last few days at the age of 83.